So sometimes you've just got to do a video in a funny hat to save one's sanity. So I think this video is more for me than it is you. So check this hat out. I mean, really, what's not to love? I mean, this is my current mood right here. So what's this video all about? Purging the madness. Let's call it that. So I am currently in London. I have been on my travels and I have been via, it started off via Glastonbury, which was super powerful. I actually haven't even had a chance to actually share the magic and the wisdom that came through on that experience, which I will. But then I drifted straight into Spain, which is where I've landed with ancestral healing, like physically being with my family in Spain, because my father wasn't very well, and that was very powerful as well. And that's a lot what I want to talk about, because it isn't just about Marie's holidays I'm talking about here. And now, current mood, I'm in London, Paddington, living in what seems to be a really good resemblance of a rabbit hutch. Now, I'm an African chick, even though I'm British, I'm African, yo. I'm all about the plains and the expansion and, you know, the space and the sunshine and the peace. And that's got zero of that in London, absolute zero. But I want to speak about my process, because I think it's really, really important since the 1010 portal. So if my video wobbles a little bit, I'm sat on the coffee table because there's nowhere else to do a video. That's how small it is, you know? It's ridiculous. The kitchen is big enough to have an arm, half a person or an arm in there. You've got to make a cup of tea from around the corner. Hysterical. But that's a lot of the energy, which is what I'm sharing with. Restriction, lack of freedom. So I'm going to just rewind and kind of go back to the full moon, which was massively purgative. It was so powerful. All of them are nowadays, but it was particularly so. Very, very big, this moon, and we all felt it, right? We all felt it. And I was incredibly sick, and it brought very, very deep purges up, which I know the moons usually do, but this was particularly intense. I was inundated by phone calls and WhatsApp saying, Marie, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out myself, because the moon was so powerful. And then, of course, the next day we fall into the 1010 portal, which was just like, wow. You know, so both of those, I was actually in Spain for those times. And then on the 10th of the 10th, I landed here in London. So that's what I want to talk about. Massive clearing, huge opening. Portals always open, big energy for big stuff. And then there's always going to be a contraction after the expansion. So, you know, it's always to understand and remember that it's okay, because I think that we get lulled into a false sense of security, meaning that like, oh, the energies are open, and we kind of are confused and almost like we've been ripped off, and we go, oh, why am I nosediving now? Because you're meant to. So we have to be more aligned and accepting of the death and rebirth experience, because that's essentially what these vibrations are all about. And I talk a lot about the Hermetic teachings and, you know, the philosophers and how what it is to be a true alchemist and Hermetic. And they used to work, well, we do as well, but I think we do work a lot with the energies, but we're not really consciously understanding that we are actually working with alchemy. But I think we do it a lot anyway. They would work with the vibrations and the frequencies using the 7 principles, which is one is the principle of mentality, the principle of vibration, cause and effect, understanding all of these different principles, laws. It was like a toolbox for them where they could navigate these energies. So even back then, they didn't just live in like peaceful vibes the whole way. They just knew how to alchemize and how to work with it, how to rise and how to fall. So, you know, pendulum swinging, this was always swinging in before time even started. This is the pendulum swing. The trick is not to get smacked by it. So if it was swinging, they'd use a certain understanding of the principles so they could like kind of jump over it, and it would swing like that, and you'd do that, you know. So it's like running the gauntlet, but knowing how to move with the frequencies and kind of like keep all the corners like very well, not corners, as Toth speaks about that. He says corners is basically where you get jammed. He said make everything, bring a curvature to everything that you do, which is quite interesting, isn't it? He says always bring the curves to the square kind of vibe. And that's essentially what he's talking about, is working as an alchemist with frequency on how to move with the death and the rebirth cycles. So, you know, life is energy, it's vibration, it's constantly moving. And so are we, but we have a deep stillness that we can connect to, which is going to ground us into this understanding on how to hop, skip and jump and move around that pendulum that's constantly swinging. So I go back to the 1010 portal, huge expansion, and then all of a sudden there's a contraction. And you know, it's like anything, you know, when the energy is big, go create, go do big things, go run with it. But when it becomes like contracted, jump that pendulum, do something which is going to kind of almost take you out the game. You know, of course you're not going to go and create, and of course you're not going to go balls to the wall when the energy is so restricting. You know, you're going to kind of go and just basically be at peace with this, because this too shall pass. So it's the laws, it's the spiritual laws, it's the energy laws, it's the principles. You know, there will always be a contraction after an expansion. So I want to talk about my experience now, because I started off in Glastonbury, which was so deeply healing and just so powerful. And I think I'm going to do another video on that, because so much happened to me in the space of 3 days. Also receiving a massive activation and attunement for the dragon energy and frequency, which is basically all of this dragon energy is coming online. All of these sacred beings and energies are coming back in through us, which is bringing the magic back to the planet, because you are the magic. So all of that, the alchemy, the dragons, everything is like happening. And then we go through the 1010 portal and then go through this. So yes, we just need to keep it real that everything is moving in the right direction. But we cannot deny that we're in very, very powerful, deeply purgative times. And we're moving into eclipse season. And in the next couple of weeks, meaning kind of like now, for the next 10 days, I suppose, actually, we're going to be really digging out people that don't need to be around us. We're going to be digging out situations, habits, all of that's got to go. And I've said it before in one of my videos, the best way to see that is when you are moving out of a space, and when you are getting rid of the clutter, okay, and you're going into like your drawers, because you've got to pack all your stuff up. When you get to the dregs of the cupboards, you're going to find like one fork, maybe a spoon, maybe a pair of socks, maybe one glove, I don't know, a bobble off a bobble hat. None of it makes sense. And do you really want that shit anyway? But it's got to go. So all of these purges are not really going to make sense to you, because you're going to be smacked one way and like boom, and you're going to be hit. Then something else is going to come in. And I think the essence and the through road in all of this is just letting go of it and just going, send it to spirit. Because that's the big word that's been coming through for me. Trust. Just trust. Trust. And I know that sounds really cheesy and like, well, go into your heart. Do you know what I mean? You're like, I'm trying not to die in my darkness. Do you know what I mean? But it's just like, it's true. We just need to trust, because there's certain things that we're supposed to do and certain things that spirit's supposed to do. So if we're trying to do it all, they can't help us. Do you know what I mean? So we need to let go and let God, you know? And yeah, with this energy. So I came out of Spain, Glastonbury, amazing. Spain, kind of intense, very, very powerful ancestral healing. But I was with my family, which was divine and gorgeous. And I was living in this lovely villa, which was at the back of my parents' house. Every morning I walked out of my house. You saw the last video. It was just beautiful water, sea, mountains. And I went from that to this rabbit hutch that I live in now, which is stuffy, small. You can't even get half a person, never mind 2 people in the kitchen. I'm here with my 2 kids, and it's just like, oh my God, it's so bad, it's laughable. And as you can hear, I've got sirens past my door 24/7. And yeah, it's just a bit hectic. So we have the tube behind us and we have the train station ahead of us. So that's nice. So what I actually understood from this is like, what the hell am I doing here? I should be like in a car roaming the British Isles, doing what I did last time, which is basically grid keeping and all the rest of it. However, I think I am, because when I was in London, we have just been down the high streets in the most busiest places. Again, I don't know why, but that's where I've been. And I have been taken out by ley lines, really powerful ley lines. Now remember, dragons are all to do with the dragon lines. Ley lines, dragon lines, it's the same thing. And that's very much to do with my work as a gridder. But I didn't anticipate that I was going to be in central London doing it. I was thinking Stone Circle somewhere like that. You know, Fairy Glen, that would be nice. No. Paddington, London, nightmare. And I got knocked off my feet the other day, and I was just sat here thinking, why am I here? And I think that I know that I'm clearing these dragon lines, and the dragons are working with me, and there's certain things that we are doing. We are working tirelessly, but we don't realize it. So I'm leaving my golden footprints all the way through London right now. I could prefer golden footprints in Hawaii. That would be nicer. But like, whatever, you just go where you're called, right? But my whole point is that what I've been observing is people in London, they are earphones in on their devices. It's chaos. Nobody talks. Everybody's in a rush. There's just noise and busyness and no clean air. And it's just like disconnect. And it's a huge lack of freedom. It's a sense of lack of freedom. But think about it. That is what we're purging and letting go of. Because if you want to umbrella it, it's about lack of freedom. Whether you want to equate it to a country you're living in, whether it's basically, you know, a repression from the governments or whatever, or lack of freedom in here, it doesn't matter. Chains and chains, you know? And that's it, and that's all. It doesn't matter, because of course the outer reality is the inner reality and vice versa. So that's kind of what we're purging right now, and there's going to be different versions of that. So what is your version of being in the shackles, which is basically restricting your freedom? And that's just to observe, not to get stuck into that, just to understand that that's what's going on, because we are going to be free as a bird just now. And especially you light workers out there who are very active in your work, sharing your work with others and doing what I'm doing, just kind of like, you know, moving around the country and the world. You know, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing for this reason, to put it into the grid work, that we are going to bring light to every dark corner of the planet. And sometimes it gets a bit heavy for us, hence why I'm living in a rabbit hutch, and that's quite hard. But also as well, my own personal journey, which we get gifted in every moment, and I'm saying this out loud for me just as much as it is for you, we get kind of challenged to go into the stillness within us and kind of like saying, right, okay, you've now been upgraded because you've studied and learned and expanded so much. We're now going to give you a hectic situation just to see how good you are at it. So let's drop Marie off in London where there's not a tree in sight. And like, let's see if she can find a stillness. And I've had nearly 5 borderline panic attacks, been on the underground, nearly died, but I brought light to it. Didn't have a panic attack, went on the underground, came out the other side. So, you know, there's lots to this. But anyway, on more of a serious note, it is all about that contraction, going into the lack of freedom, because remember, we're not stopping until we get this done. Now, just to finish off on that, for those of you that want your freedom and you're still focusing on basically expanding those golden wings, look out for some offerings that I'm going to be sharing in the next week or so. When I get back to Cape Town, I'll be able to put that out on social media. But more importantly, the Tablets of Light Tour 2023. People are like really hearing the call now, and I'm excited as the special beings that have already got on the tour. Are you one of them? Let's focus on that and get over this, because we've got work to do. Anyway, thanks for watching. Love and light from my rabbit hutch. Bye.